It was always weeks away, then months away, then just a little more funding away. For over a decade, investors poured money into a machine that was going to change ocean tourism forever. A semi-submarine, a vessel that would cruise along the surface while passengers sat below the waterline, watching the reef glide by through big windows. $28 million flowed in. Retirees, small business owners, people who believed they were funding the future of Hawaiian tourism. There was just one problem. According to federal prosecutors, the boat never really worked. And while investors waited for a launch that never came, their money was buying mansions, a Mercedes, luxury vacations, and, incredibly, psychics. This is the story of Curtis Jackson and Semisub, the vessel that spent 13 years going nowhere, and the man who rode it all the way to federal prison. The pitch was, honestly, kind of brilliant. Everyone knows a submarine tour is expensive and claustrophobic, but a semi-submarine? A boat that floats on the surface, engine and all, while tourists sit in a lower cabin with windows below the waterline? That's cheaper to build, safer to run, and perfect for a place like Hawaii, where millions of tourists a year will pay to see a coral reef. On paper, it's a real category of vessel. Semi-subs exist. That's what made the story so easy to believe. Curtis Jackson, operating out of Honolulu, held the top titles at the company. CEO, president, the face of the whole operation. He told investors he had a working prototype, the Semisub 1, and that commercial operations were right around the corner. And for a while, there was something to point at. A hull, a vessel, photos. When a scam has a physical object at the center of it, doubt gets a lot harder. You can't argue with a boat sitting in the water. And Jackson understood the audience. Hawaii runs on tourism and locals know it. Pitching a homegrown vessel that would put island innovation on the world map wasn't just a financial proposition, it was a point of pride. When a scam wraps itself in local identity and a believable industry, skepticism feels almost disloyal. Who wants to be the person betting against Hawaii's next big thing? And the vision kept expanding. According to the Department of Justice, Jackson didn't just sell a single boat. He sold a fleet. Investors were told that Semisub had developed relationships with government agencies and a private investment firm, deals that would fund and purchase a whole line of these vessels for tens of millions of dollars. Imagine the pitch. You're not buying into one tourist boat in Honolulu. You're getting in early on the company that's going to build and sell semi-submarines all over the world. Every coastal tourist town a potential customer. That's the psychology of the perfect scam. It's not a product, it's a movement, and you're lucky to be let in. Money came in through securities, investment contracts, promises of returns, equity, and the grand future of Semisub. And year after year, the message stayed the same. We're almost there. The prototype is nearly ready. The government deal is nearly signed. Just a little more capital to get across the finish line. But the finish line, prosecutors say, was a mirage that Jackson had no intention of ever reaching. And the structure protected him. Because the money came in as securities, private investment contracts, rather than a public offering, there was no army of analysts poking at the numbers. It was person to person, referral to referral, trust built over years. Every satisfied early conversation recruited the next check. Nobody wanted to be the one demanding to see the audited books of a company run by a man everyone seemed to vouch for. Because here's the question that should have sunk the whole thing years earlier. If the boat was always weeks away, for over 10 years, where was all the money actually going? The answer involves real estate, a Mercedes, and a psychic hotline. When federal investigators followed the money, the picture that emerged had nothing to do with shipbuilding. According to prosecutors, investor funds were used to pay for luxury residences, not one, but properties in Hawaii and California. A Mercedes-Benz, expensive vacations, and in a detail so strange it became the headline of the entire case: payments to psychics. Sit with that. Retirees handed over their savings to build a tourist submarine, and some of that money went to fortune tellers. It's almost cartoonish, but it points to something real about how these schemes work. When the money is flowing in faster than anyone is checking where it goes, the spending stops having any connection to the supposed business. There's no boat being built, so the cash just becomes lifestyle. Mansions, cars, trips, and whatever else the operator wants. Every dollar spent on a psychic is a dollar an investor thought was buying a propeller, a window, a hull. And because the company still existed on paper, still had its prototype, still had its story, the checks kept clearing and the questions kept getting deferred. And notice the timeline this spending reveals. This wasn't a business that started honest and drifted. Prosecutors describe more than a decade of the same pattern. Raise money on the promise of an imminent launch, spend it on a lifestyle, then raise more to cover the gap and keep the story alive. The vessel was never the point. The vessel was the set dressing for a machine that converted other people's retirement savings into mansions and Mercedes payments. Every scam like this dies the same way. Eventually, the story can't outrun reality. A prototype that's been weeks from launch for over a decade starts to look like exactly what it is. Investors compare notes. Promised government deals turn out not to exist. The returns never materialize, and neither does the fleet. When the scheme finally collapsed and investigators moved in, the total was staggering. More than $28 million raised from investors over a span of more than 10 years. And this is where Jackson made his situation dramatically worse. According to the Justice Department, while he was out on pre-trial release, awaiting trial for the fraud, he didn't lie low. He tampered with a witness and obstructed an official proceeding. Think about what that means. Already facing federal fraud charges, he allegedly tried to interfere with the very case against him. It's the behavior of someone who believed, right up until the end, that he could talk his way out of anything. The same confidence that let him tell investors the boat was almost ready for 13 straight years. And for the investors, the collapse wasn't abstract. These were people who had waited years, some of them a decade, telling their families the payoff was just around the corner. When the truth landed, they weren't just out money. They had defended this man, recruited friends, staked their judgment on him. Affinity and time are the cruelest parts of a long fraud. The longer you wait, the more you've invested in believing, and the harder it becomes to admit what you're looking at. That confidence finally ran out in a federal courtroom. And the jury didn't just weigh the fraud, they weighed everything he did while trying to escape it. In May 2024, a federal jury in Honolulu convicted Curtis Jackson. The list of counts is worth hearing in full because it maps the entire arc of the scheme. Securities fraud for the fraudulent investment contracts. Conspiracy to commit mail and wire fraud for the coordinated scheme. Mail fraud and wire fraud for the individual acts of deception. And then the two that came from his own behavior after he was caught. Witness tampering and obstructing an official proceeding while on pre-trial release. In August 2025, the sentence came down, 13 years in federal prison. Jackson was 71 years old. For a man that age, 13 years is not a chapter. It may well be the rest of his life. His co-conspirator faced charges as well, part of a scheme the government spent years unwinding. The Semisub, the vessel that was always about to revolutionize ocean tourism, had finally reached a destination. It just happened to be a prison sentence instead of a coral reef. So what do you take from a story about a submarine that never sailed? The lesson isn't about boats. It's about a specific trick that works on smart people. Notice how this scam defended itself. It had a physical object, a real hull, real photos, a real sounding category of vessel. The tangibility is the weapon. It's much harder to doubt an investment when you can stand next to it and take a picture. But a prototype is not a business. A hull in the water is not revenue. And "we're weeks away" is not a milestone, it's a stalling tactic, especially when you hear it for the 10th year in a row. Real projects hit real dates. When every deadline slides and every setback needs just a little more money, the timeline itself is the red flag. Ask for audited financials. Ask to see the government contracts in writing, not described. Ask what happens to your money if the launch slips again. And if the honest answer to when does this actually generate revenue is always the same distance away, you're not an investor. You're the fuel keeping a boat afloat that was never designed to move. If this story surprised you, the psychic's detail alone earns a comment below. What's the strangest thing you've ever heard someone spend investor money on? Subscribe for the next investigation, because for every fraud that makes the news, a dozen more are floating out there right now, always weeks away from launch. Financial crimes hiding in plain sight, told with the receipts. I'll see you in the next one.